to junk.
Welcome to this edition of Trash Compactor. In this episode I'll be making a vintage style sitting Emperor.
You want this, don't you?
I purchased this Emperor's throne on eBay. Came without a figure, but I wanted to use it for my vintage Emperor. So I've got several vintage Emperors, as there's tons of them about in various states and conditions. This one's fine, he's a bit loose, but is an ideal candidate. So what I need to do is to dremel out a shape in the back of the legs so he will sit and fit onto the throne. So this is quite brutal. It looks quite messy, but you basically have to use your dremel and chisel out almost like a channel along the back of the legs. It does remove some of the area on the base of the figure, on his bottom, but this is for display purposes only, so it's not going to be seen. And the reason why I do this is just to lower the Emperor because he's a little bit too high in the chair and his head touches the top. So do this with my Dremel, and also then using my Stanley knife to cut away the plastic, which is very hard. So be careful with this. You could just cut it away from the beginning, but it's just easier to use the Dremel to get the majority of it away and then neaten it up with the Stanley knife. So once you've done all the cutting, the next thing to do is to boil the Emperor. Pop him in some boiling hot water, and we're going to give him a good 10 minutes of simmering to soften up the rubber. So the Emperor's had a good 10 minutes soaking, and remember the water is boiling hot, so be very careful when you're taking it out. Pop him on a towel, be careful with the rubber because it is hot. Once you can touch him, the thing to do is to then fold the legs back so they're curving in on themselves. This is to create a crease. Now this won't make them permanently bent, it just helps give them a bit of a curve, which helps the Emperor sit on his throne. As the rubber is super soft, I'm going to use a cable tie and attach this over his folded legs and round his torso. So bend the legs into position, pop the cable tie on, and then tighten it as tight as you can. Now the rubber is soft, it will leave slight marks on the front of the Emperor's legs, but you can rectify this later just with a Stanley knife. So there you go, while the legs are bent, position the cable tie on, so it's going to stay, keep the legs bent, and tighten the cable tie. So once you've got the cable tie on, what you need to do is pop him back in the water for a few minutes. Not 10 minutes because it will eventually force the cable tie off. But you literally just want to give it a little bit of heat. So give him a couple of minutes and then get a cup of ice cold water and drop the Emperor straight in. This helps firm the plastic and helps it retain some of the curve. So once the Emperor's had a few moments to bathe in the ice cold water, fish him out and then you can remove the cable tie. And you can see on the legs they've got a bit of a curve already. This isn't going to stay this curved, the plastic will slightly mould back to its original shape, but it just helps create that shape for allowing him to sit on the throne. As you can see, there's a good curve there on the legs. Now he fits much better into the seat. Doesn't fit all the way in, don't really want him to, just want him to rest on the side and look like he's sitting. So you can see there's a couple of little marks on the front where the cable tie marked the rubber. I'm just going to give these a slight trim off, as well as trimming off a little bit on the back of the feet so they look more angled and flat to the ground, as if he's resting his heels on the ground rather than actually have his feet completely flat. You could neaten up the back by using some liquid poly or some plastic melt, but it's display purposes. He's going to be sat on the throne, nobody's going to see his bottom, and as you can see, he sits quite nicely. So I'm going to neaten up the front of the legs, and then that's basically going to be my Emperor complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions for any future projects, by all means drop them in the comments. Please like, share and subscribe.
What a piece of junk!